Hey everyone, welcome to the Matt Report. I'm your host, Matt, and I'm interviewing folks who make a living using WordPress, WordPress entrepreneurs, marketers, bloggers, small business owners. If you haven't watched any of the shows, do check out mattreport.com and go to mattreport.com/subscribe to be on the newsletter to find out when I release new and awesome interviews. Today I'm honored to have CC Chapman on the show. CC, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, doing very, very well.
Good to hear it.
So give us the 2-minute warning slash elevator pitch, what you're up to, what you're all about, and how you discovered WordPress.
Yeah, so my name is CC Chapman. You can find me at cc-chapman.com. I'm an author. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a photographer. I run a company called the Cleon Foundation. My latest book is called Amazing Things Will Happen, and the one before that is kind of the Bible of content marketing called Content Rules that I wrote with Ann Hanley. I discovered WordPress. I started blogging in 2002 on Movable Type and Expression Engine, so I've been through all of them. There was another one too in there that I used, and then the day that I got WordPress installed, it sounds cliche, but I mean the whole world was like, "Wow, this makes blogging easier than it's ever been for me," and I've been using it ever since for not just blogs that I set up and stuff, but even when I had my marketing agency, our entire site was a WordPress site that you would never know that was WordPress. We knew that it was a content engine that we could use to manage our entire website. So I use it for everything.
Nice. Yeah, so I've been a follower of you for a long time. I think when I first started my agency and getting into WordPress as a whole, starting to follow marketers on the web, on Twitter, everyone was recommending WordPress. And as I got more and more involved with it, and we built our studio around it, I saw how much work it takes to build something custom. And there's a very low barrier of entry to WordPress. It's good and bad.
Yeah.
What did you find when you first started using WordPress and started to customize it, especially when you're running your creative agency? Where did you look for that help and expertise?
Yeah, I was fortunate that I had while WordPress has always had great themes that you can get for free or for very inexpensive or much cheaper than hiring a full-blown design. I'd always worked with designers to make custom ones because while I can code enough to be dangerous, I don't enjoy doing it. So I'd rather hire someone with the skills and the passion to do that. And it's always been it's finding, the WordPress, at least now, has a really good network of people that I forget if they call them, they have names from them. They're like certified to work with WordPress, and there's a lot of them out there. Great word of mouth. I would go out to Twitter in the early days and be like, okay, who can help me design a website? Because, while my business partner was much more on the design side, he knew aesthetically what he wanted. He didn't know how to make WordPress do what he wanted it to do. And thankfully, there's so many people out there now. That's one of the reasons why I still to this day recommend WordPress to clients, because I just say between the developer network, the plugins, and the number of people out there who understand how to make it do what they want to do. I don't know. I haven't researched in a while, but I don't know of any other content marketing platform and blogging platform that has such vast knowledge from straight out school kids all the way up to people who make their whole living on tweaking WordPress. So it's a great way to get up and going.
Yeah, I mean it is a marketplace, an ecosystem, a field. There's various folks that get involved with WordPress.com, WordPress.org.
Yeah,
tons of businesses built around it. Mine being one of them. And it's funny, the natural instinct for anyone starting marketing online is just say, oh, yeah, go ahead and install WordPress. And a good friend of mine, John Morgan, who's another author, we did his site for him. And when I interviewed him, or when I did a discovery session about what types of needs does he want in a WordPress site, and he goes, I want a really good author page. I want a really good speaker page. But there's no particular method to doing that, right? It's all about the design. Are there any tips that you can give for authors or speakers or folks in your field of what works with a really good site and what you recommend, what you've seen work for you?
Yeah, I think for specifically focus on authors and speakers, the key thing it has to be a clean layout. I don't know how deep, but I mean that is, at the first, that's true for any website. But it's got to be clean and clear, be able to find what they're looking for on any device. That's the key part too, because let's face it, a presenter's going to be up on stage speaking, and somebody out in that audience might be, I want to hire them for my event, and they're going to pull it up on their iPad or on their phone. And if your site doesn't look good on that, they might go, what? They may forget about it, and you lose that. So that's one thing that some people don't think about. But I think also make sure that you've got, video embedded. If you're a speaker that says, here shows you speaking, quotes of things, of what previous people have said about you. As much as, professional photos also look great because it kind of shows, hey, this isn't, because anybody can say I'm a speaker, but not everybody can get up on stage and really be a professional speaker. So I think having those three things are crucial. And then, from the author perspective, that really depends on what type of writing you're doing. A business author versus a fiction versus a 50 Shades of Grey. All, very different author pages, but still basic bio information about you and who you are.
Yeah. The coming from the marketing and branding background that you do, advice to folks who, like you said, anybody could be a speaker, anyone could be an author kind of thing, anyone could be a WordPress developer. I see it in my field all the time. And I see other marketers who say, I'm a WordPress marketing guru. I'm a social media ninja. And I think I meant to pull up the link. There was an article that came out the other day. Somebody did some research. There's like 65,000 mentions of social media guru or something.
Yeah, someone had actually gone through Twitter bios specifically and pulled out how many, and I was shocked. I mean, I guess I wasn't shocked, but I was more shocked that someone took the time to, because that probably took a couple hours of pulling data from somewhere, and I just thought, wow, and it giggled. It just made me laugh at that many people, but it's true. They do that.
And so what a lot of folks will do is they'll say they're marketers, they'll say they're experts, branding experts, and then they'll go and they'll use the same theme or template over and over and over again for their not even for themselves, but for their own clients.
Yes.
What do you think? Bit of a disservice. How should people get educated to really know this stuff?
I think plain and simple, one of the things someone needs to do, and I don't care if you're hiring a house cleaner or a gardener or a WordPress developer, you get you ask for references. I mean, that's one of the things when I was talking about the speaker page, having clear cut, here's what so-and-so said. And the first thing I do before I hire anybody is ask for references. And it's, or I'll ask around, hey, has anybody worked with this person before? And usually that's where my search starts. I'd rather have someone say, because if I say, I need a WordPress developer, I need a speaker, I need some social media consulting, someone's going to go, oh, call Jane, she rocks, or call Michael, and I'd rather start there because, like you said, anybody can stick the flag in the ground. And that's why I like with speakers. I mean, video of actual speeches. Because let's face it, of course, if I ask for references, they're only going to give me good ones. I mean, that's everybody. We all do that. That's the nature of references. So having that social proof of, oh yeah, these people out here have said this person is really good. Because nothing drives me nuts than I'm a WordPress developer, and they open it up, because it takes 5 minutes to install it and pick a theme. And that's one of the things that's beautiful about it. But if that's all you're doing, but let's face it, in every industry, there's a million snake oil salesmen. And, this one, because the internet empowers anybody to be a publisher and to put their stuff out there, this industry makes it really easy to do and say that I'm anything I want to be.
Yeah. More specifically, you ran your business, your creative agency, and you sold it in 2009, if I'm correct. Mm-hmm. Talk about running that business and kind of the services that you offered to clients, and kind of your journey with that. So we launched the Advanced Guard in 2007, and it was one of these things. Me and my partner Steve Colson had been doing a lot of work on big campaigns with Coca-Cola and stuff, and we launched this agency because we realized a lot of companies didn't understand social and they weren't being strategic about it. And the projects we were working on were, how do you launch True Blood, the HBO show, to the world when the show hasn't even aired yet? How do you new video games from Warner Brothers and Snapple and Fios? How do you get people excited about Fios when they don't even have it yet? And those were, so it was more than just, hey, set up a Facebook page. That's not what we did. And WordPress was great. We used WordPress for a lot of client sites as well. And like I said, we used it for ours because I remember we wanted a magazine style site rather than a blog. And
people were funny because they'd be like, "How did you get WordPress to do that?" And I was like, and I remember I was like, "Well, because we had this great web designer who knew WordPress inside and out. And I still use him for projects to this day." And yeah, we were doing lots of creative work, and we believed that if we were selling it to clients, we had we had to walk the talk. We had to say, "Well, go look at our website." And we did a lot of where it was a magazine style. The articles were case studies of previous work. So there wasn't a lot of pages. There wasn't a lot of, probably from like an SEO perspective, we weren't creating enough new content, but that's not what it was about. We treated it as a destination site where we expected people to come, go, "Ooh," and then talk to us on the phone and hire us. So that's how we leveraged it.
Yeah. How, there's a lot of either young entrepreneurs in WordPress or smaller firms and shops that are just starting up. Folks that would love to build a site for Coca-Cola, major brands, major media brands. A lot of us get bogged down with the $500 client, right? The client, the small business person down the street. Advice to those folks who are dealing in the low budget. How do they scale up? How do they get a Coca-Cola one day? Or how does they get to that level?
Yeah, so I mean, and it's one of those things, doesn't matter what field you're in. If you take, this is one of the things when I speak. I mean, I do a lot of speaking, and I get paid to speak, but I also do take on plenty of free speaking gigs all the time too. But I know anytime I accept that free one, I might be missing the opportunity for a bigger one. And the same thing goes where you're saying bogged down in the little clients. First and foremost, the easiest way to get bigger clients is to do really good work. Now, I know I'm oversimplifying, but that's the core to anything, is make sure you're rocking out the clients you are working on. And then it's about, good old-fashioned networking. It's going to events. I just got back from NMX this morning, out in Vegas, and, you never know who you're going to bump into in a session or a coffee line or, a casino in that case where it was Vegas. But you got to go out there and network and get to know. Because it's not just, you're not necessarily going to bump into a Coca-Cola there, although you might, but you're going to bump into somebody who at something else is going to bump into somebody at Coke and say, "Hey, I met Sissy. You should talk at least. Let's see if something happens." And it takes time. And then eventually maybe you get on stage and you speak, or at a developer conference, or, a WordCamp in this case, because WordCamps are great networking opportunities. I've spoken at one here in Boston. And you start building that network, and it takes time. And, me personally, I'm not good at biz dev. I'm really not. Get them in the door and I will rock their world and they will hire. But and sometimes it is a matter of, I have a friend right now who runs a small strategy company, and she just had to hire a salesperson right now because she realized she's spending so much time with the clients, she doesn't have the time to develop. And she found somebody who needed extra work, and they're working on what you eat, what you kill. So she's not paying this salesperson, but they get a huge commission on anything they land. So they're out there now hunting. And this was somebody who's they're not. It wasn't something that she wished she could pay them full time, but she doesn't need a full time person either. So there's a good arrangement there, but it takes time. I mean, and trust me, while those big clients look killer on the resume and having that logo is sweet on your client side, it's also a step up. You got to make sure you're ready, because the worst thing you could possibly do is get that big client, get that big speaking engagement, and then blow it. It's better not to ever get it in the first place, because if you're not ready to scale up, to that big agency, that big client, it could be even worse than never getting in the first place.
Yeah, there's a whole operational billing, human resources, contact,
legal, insurances. I remember at one point we got a new client, and all of a sudden they're like, "Well, you need $1 million in liability insurance," and we were like, "For what?" And they're like, "Well, now you're in the big leagues." And it was one of those moments where, and that was a cost for us that we did not want to suck up. And we're like, "Are we definitely getting this contract?" I remember that conversation, like, "Are we really getting this Yeah, okay, well, we need to go pay this." And it was one of those moments where we said, "All right, this is what you have to do to get to the next level." So we did it. But yeah, it's scary. And it's one of those, do you have the cash flow? Is it the right? Yeah, there's a million business decisions.
Yeah, and then I think what a lot of folks in the WordPress field, when they're growing their business, if they're already good for them, if they're already thinking scale and getting to that enterprise level, because that's a whole different field in WordPress where you can make some buco bucks, but they have to be prepared, especially in the cash flow. And you bring up a good point. Salesperson, I don't have the cash flow to hire a salesperson, but I'm going to pay them pure commission. and they're gonna make tons of money when they sell it, but I don't have the cash flow to pay them.
Right.
And then when you get the larger client, we've been in this case a few times. We have a couple large clients, but then you don't get paid 6, 8, 9 months. And where's the cash flow? Comes in one big Christmas gift.
If you're lucky, right?
Right, if you're lucky.
If you're lucky, yeah, because they've got, you're just one of the vendor, you're one other vendor, and it's not. But then on the flip side too, yeah, because when you have that $500 client not pay you because, they're starving too, it doesn't hurt as much when it's $5,000 or $50,000 because you're like, I need this money. And it's, the whole invoicing and getting paid is the hardest part about being an entrepreneur, no matter what your field is, because you're always waiting for the check. Check's in the mail, right?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. When you were running your agency, were you? You just bring up a good point about that salesperson getting only commission. Have you ever run into that, or have you ever practiced that same kind of strategy before?
We didn't have a salesperson. It was one of those things like we didn't want to scale and go crazy, and we were very, very fortunate that out of the gate we were working with American Eagle Outfitters at the time, so we were doing a lot for them. So they were keeping us busy, and then fortunately, this company Campfire, who ended up buying us, was like, "Hey, we want to work with you guys." So we were working on their projects all the time. So as they got a new client, we got a new client for a lot of different things. So I've thought about it for sure. I mean, especially on, like the speaking side, there's speakers bureaus who work that way. That's the way they make their money. So I haven't yet personally used it, but I know a lot of people who do that.
Yeah. Did you run with a strategy in mind to kind of sell the company the whole time?
No, it was so funny because both Steve and I, my partner, had left a previous agency completely independently of each other, several weeks apart from each other. I was going to go freelance. He was going to go work for another agency. And we started getting phone calls of, "Hey, we want to hire you as a team." And we had 3 or 4 meetings with companies who wanted to hire us. And we said, maybe we should do something. And then we got a call to start a project. And we literally formed the LLC kind of to cover our bases. And then all of a sudden I remember we formed in September. Come December, we had made a profit, and we're like, we got to do stuff here. And when we got bought, the idea was never, ever to sell. And but we had done all this work with Campfire, and they said, "Listen, they didn't." I think the end of the day was, "We're sick of paying you. How do we acquire you?" And it was a great thing, and it worked really well. And Campfire's still going really strong. So, no, the end goal was never to sell. We never had it on our radar at all.
Awesome. That led you to the 2 books.
Yeah,
that you've written, Content Rules, and Amazing Things Will Happen.
Yep.
Content Rules is perfect for WordPress because you're creating content, you're uploading photos, you're embedding video, you're doing podcast stuff.
Yep.
Safe to say that you were on the early train of content marketing. How has that benefited you? How is author life as amazing as it sounds?
No. Well, I mean, yes and no. So yeah, it's funny because I remember when Ann Handley, my co-author, called me up and said, "Hey, I want you to write this book with me." I'm like, do we really need a book about content? Are people really that clueless about content? Because I'd always been doing it, and she'd been doing it, and how wrong was I? And it was funny because the entire time we're writing it, we kept saying, "Do people really need this?" And it's gone on and. I forget how many languages now. She was just in Turkey and it was out in Turkish, and it's great. But yeah, no, content. It changed my life in a great way because it put me on a bunch of people's new radar. Because I've been creating it and doing the work for clients. It's all about when you're an agency, the starlight, the spotlight should always be on the clients. So it's always look at our clients, not look at us. So yeah, the book was great, and the life of being an author is, it is exciting. I'd be lying if I told you. Last year it brought me to Africa and Spain and in Europe, and it's cool, but it is a constant hustle because books don't pay you a lot of money unless you're writing. Fiction pays a lot better than nonfiction, but let's face it, you write a book, honestly, especially in the business space, if you're writing a book, it's a $25 business card. It's literally saying, yeah, here's my book, read it, have fun. That adds a level of credibility to everything you do, and very few authors make their money off the selling of the book. They make it off of speaking engagements or consulting, and or I make a lot of it also on freelance writing or travel journalism and those sort of things. So I will not complain about being an author one bit because I love it and I love. But there are those days where I'm holed up in my office, banging my head on the wall about I don't want to write today. So, but no, it's a beautiful way to make a living.
Yeah, it's, all the interviews I listen to or watch or stuff that I read, everyone that is in the business space of writing books say the same thing. It's just another tool in the tool belt to get you through the door, to get you to the speaking gig, to get you to the bigger client, unless you have maybe something like a Tim Ferriss kind of businessy book or Eric Ries of Lean Startup, that kind of thing. I think those might be the bigger names in like the business.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Get it. When those royalty checks show up, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, It's always like, oh, cool. And but yeah, but you've got to write a really good book, and we've been fortunate that Content Rules continues to just sell like gangbusters, so it's awesome. But yeah, you write it for other reasons. You write it because you need to write it.
Yeah, I was listening to Chris Brogan's podcast the other day, and I forget the gentleman's name that he was interviewing. It was a hilarious interview, and he was a songwriter. But he said, which I never knew about. I don't really know anything about the music industry, but he was writing music for folks, and he just sends out. He'll send out 50 songs a year, and maybe one artist picks up on that. Yeah, I thought that was amazing. Like, wow, I don't think I would create 50 free websites and send them out and see what happens.
Right. So it's very, very different, right? You never know, and I bet you there's people in his field who wouldn't do it either. Right. Would go, what is he, insane? But if it works for him and he's got this creative outlet already, go for it.
Nice. I was listening to one of your most recent podcasts. I love the intro of your podcast. I might kind of steal that. Did you get a voiceover talent to do that?
So that the voiceover for Managing the Gray is my dear friend Cali Lewis from Geekbeat TV. Cali and I go way, way back, and it's funny because she doesn't do voice, and it's always funny because Cali is a big deal now. One of the biggest technology podcasts out there. And every so often someone will be like, hey, that's Cali. I'm like, yeah, I know it's Cali. Yeah. So yeah, I was one of the first podcasters. I got paid to podcast. I did a music podcast for years. And so I always appreciated the really good sounding intro to a podcast. And I still firmly believe it's crucial, bookend that podcast. I hear now I'm not doing it as much. And radio does it for a reason. People like to go, oh, now the podcast is starting. So yeah. There's plenty of people out there. I know plenty of voiceover people. I will gladly recommend them to you if you need some.
That's awesome. Speaking of Content Rules, is podcast making a comeback? Do we really know, like, this show is a web show, podcast, webcast?
Yeah, what do you call it, right?
What do you call it? Is that the inherent issue with what we do, or, is it making a comeback? What's your thoughts?
So I think it's funny because, seeing these people at New Media Expo that used to be Blog World, there used to be Portable Media Expo, which was just straight up podcasting in 2005. Seeing some of the old timers, we were talking about how there has definitely been this renaissance of podcasting in the last 6 months, but it seems to only be happening in the business and the social worlds. Like, I'm not seeing many new music podcasts or because back in the day it was crazy. And a big part of podcasting, why it never clicked as much as we all hoped, it was hard to subscribe to it, forcing the average person to find an RSS feed, and nobody has still made it easier. But now with things like our phones, people are figuring it out. They can stream a podcast to their phone, and they're not going to get data killed like they would have even just a year or two ago. So I think podcasting, there has been people waking up to audio, and audio is very intimate. People can listen at the gym. You're in your ears. It's a very intimate way to connect to people. So I love seeing people doing podcasting. It's fun to see it. I don't get to listen to them as much as I used to because podcasting was always great for commuting. Because you're in the car an hour, you can listen to podcasts. That was so I love seeing people jumping back in.
Yeah, I noticed that you, or at least on your site, you embed it on SoundCloud. Any particular podcasting strategies to share with folks? Any platform you like?
Yeah, so obviously, SoundCloud doesn't push out an RSS feed, so it's not, you can't make it. Well, or they might, but I use Libsyn for hosting. I've used them for years, but I like SoundCloud because their player is really nice. It's HTML5 compatible. It plays nice with WordPress. Not all plugins play nice, and I love the fact too that I can record. Like when I was in Ghana last year, SoundCloud has an app. So I was literally in the field or at a hospital, and I'm recording it. And then I could add a picture, I could geotag and hit publish, and it would go out to everybody. So, and I love that, and it makes it much, much easier. And now that I'm working with CoPoint Media to host, and they're like my NPR, I guess, for my show. And, they use SoundCloud a lot, and SoundCloud's been very supportive of us. So I think it's a great way to get going right away. Because you can hit recording right away. You don't have to. Both you and I have condenser mics we're talking into, but you don't have to. At least, especially when you're getting started. Granted, it's got to sound good eventually, but make it sound as good as possible in your budget. But just start podcasting right away, because let's face it, you're going to be horrible at first. Yeah, everybody is, no matter what you're doing. And microphones are scary until you start getting used to them and not umming and ahhing. And, if I say pop filter and people go, what's that? So there's lots of things, but you got to get used to it. And there's tons of, if you're looking to get started with podcasting, there's so much information out there because it's been around. I started my podcast in 2004. It's been around, so there's tons of how-to articles out there. And I'm sure, with CES happening right now, there's probably some new microphones being announced and products coming out. So I'm sure, just get started. That's the key with any content. Just start today and then get better at it as soon as you can. Just keep working at it.
And you bring up a great transition. The freelancer grows his business, his or her business, starts an agency, gets the big client, they're pumping out content. Does everything wrap up into that, and eventually amazing things will happen? Is that kind of the hard work and straightforwardness of the concept?
Yeah, that's the premise of the book. The biggest thing was, if you want, you're going to be a good person, you got to work your tail off, and you got to know what you want. That's one of the key parts that I believe is that, you got to know where you're going. You don't necessarily have to know how you're going to get there, but you got to know what you want. And the concept of the book is much more about a lifestyle rather than any it's about living the life that you want to live. If you want to be a coder, I don't have to earn $1 million. I would like to earn enough money so I don't have to think about it all the time. Be worried about the next page. That's my goal. And that's, my definition of amazing is a cabin in the woods versus a beach house for somebody else. But yeah, you've got to work really hard, but also clearly know where you want to get to. Especially, I don't know where I want to be 5 years from now necessarily, but I do know where I want to be 6 months from now, or I have a goal for the end of 2013. And I think more people need to go through that exercise of saying, this is where I want to get to, and then figure out how am I going to get from A to B, because it's not always a straight line. It's all over the place. So,
right. Do you have any way to kind of validate that where I want to be answer? A lot of folks say, yeah, I want to be $1 million, but that might not be the right answer.
I think that's a crappy answer. Yeah, I think it needs to be much more tactile to say, I want to be out of debt in 5 years, or I'd like to pay off. I'd like to have, $10,000 in a savings account for my kids' college. And it shouldn't always be about money either, because let's face it, we all want more money. There's not a human on this planet who doesn't want more money, because having more money means less worries about things. That's the nature of the world we live in. So I always, I have an exercise in the book where I talk about if you're looking for a new job, everybody wants, less stress, more money, shorter commute, right? But
not in Boston.
yeah, right. No kidding. But if that's all but that's not really what it bases it on, because I can give you a $300,000 job next door that you get to sit in a beanbag chair all day, and you may still hate it. Yeah. So really figure out what it is you're looking in life, or a job, or a relationship, whatever it is, a client even, because let's face it. I just had a conversation with someone the other day who fired their biggest client. The agency fired the client because they were so horrible to work with. They were getting, their soul was being sucked out. That's a big decision. That's something that entrepreneurs have to think a lot about. And that's a hard decision. I've sort of done it once. It's a scary thing to say, no, I don't want your money. Mm-hmm. But if it's, taking away your soul, and if it's, stressing you out and it's affecting your other clients, then it's not worth it.
Lawyers. No, I just did an interview with John Saddington this morning. He's a founder of 8-Bit. He does a publication called WP Daily. And I've never met him, much like I had the first time meeting you. And we're just giving some context about each other in the beginning. And he said, so is this what you wanted? This is what your dream? This is what you're happy with? And I said, yeah, yeah, pretty sure I am. I think I am. And it's really started to make me think about, where you want to be. And he said the same thing. He focuses on one product. They make one WordPress theme, and that's it. Where you see the rest of the industry makes 20, 30 different themes, for everybody. He focuses on one, and that's all they do, and they're very profitable at it. It's just not an easy thing to do when you're starting up and you need to get income. You need people to come to you. And this 2012 was one of those years where, hey, we had to fire the wrong client. You just can't take them on, once you get to that certain level.
And you do, and even starting out, I've started this new company called the Cleon Foundation, and we're focused on helping people do social good initiatives, marketing products that make the world a better place. And even just, this past week, I had somebody come, and I was like, oh, because it was like, that sounds like, and it sounded like a good opportunity, but I said, sorry, that's not what I consult on anymore, because it didn't fit this. And that was hard, because I was like, that would be but then it felt good too, though, because I said, let me introduce you to a couple people who do this type of stuff, because I knew they're going to benefit from it. But yeah, it is weird. But the sooner you figure out what it is you want to do, it makes it a little easier to say no, because saying no is hard, right? Especially if it involves an opportunity or possible money, or those are the hardest things to say no to. It's easier. Derek Sivers has this great thing he calls the hell yeah test, where if I ask you a question and if you don't instantly go hell yeah, then maybe you should think about saying no. It's not yes or no, it's no or hell yeah. And I tried, but we always sometimes have to take the thing that we take the medicine that we don't want.
Yeah, that's definitely an awesome little test there. You said something before about you just came back from NMX.
Yep.
Networking in the real life. Some of our WordPress developers or designers are introverts. A lot of the folks I interview say they're introverts, although when I get them on camera, they're explosive, right? Andy Stratton is one of them that I interviewed, who once did a WordCamp talk in a crushed velvet robe with a captain's hat,
nice,
reading his stuff as if it were the Moby Dick novel.
Nice,
but a lot of folks don't understand, especially now. In the old days, everything was done by a handshake. Everything was done by face-to-face. And when I go around and I speak about selling WordPress, I say that's still the #1 way to do it.
It is.
Twitter and social is all great, but there's the real social of getting involved in front of people. Still a benefit for you and your business?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I was very happy to see one of the lines in my new book that keeps getting quoted is that handshakes and hugs will always trump likes and shares, because it's so true, right? Yep. I mean, getting out and sitting down over a beer or a coffee or, just in a hallway is always going to be the way people remember you and make an impact. And if all you're doing is sitting behind your computer and never getting out, you're never going to be as successful as you. And that goes for developers. It goes for everybody, and I encourage people, while getting together with fellow developers is great, that's not where your clients are going to come from.
Exactly.
Most of the time. You want that network. Don't get me wrong. You want that network, but go to some place that's totally not. Like, I'm excited because I've got some conferences coming up that I'm speaking at that are non-social media at all. And those are my favorite, because I get exposed. Like, there's nothing better than, for me at least, I love going to a conference where people have no idea who I am. Because I walk out and you're talking to everybody and there's no preconceived notions, and it's just, oh, what do you do? Oh, cool, I do this. And you have to get out there. You have to network with people. I mean, social media, the social part people forget about, right? The social is interacting with humans. The tools make it easier than ever, and it's a great way to start relationships. Don't get me wrong. I've had some great relationships and clients start via social media, Facebook and Twitter and stuff. But at the end of the day, I mean, being able to sit down and hug somebody or shake their hand, it is the way it's done. I'm a small town guy.
Yep.
I still believe in, you stand behind your reputation, and a handshake is your word. So
yep. Just a quick side note. How do you think Boston's doing for entrepreneurship, innovation, networking? Are we coming up?
We are coming up. Come on now. We just don't get the credit we deserve. I mean, for, New York and Silicon Valley, they're both great places. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to hate on either of them, but the Northeast has some of the most talented entrepreneurs in every field. We have, and part of it, I think it's part of it's all the colleges. We bring in, especially in just a Boston area. I don't even know what the latest number, but Boston proper, there's got to be at least 100 plus universities and colleges. We have some of the, between MIT and stuff, we have some of the most technology focused things. The 128 corridor may not be what it used to be, but I just think it's Boston and all of New England, because I'm a New Hampshire boy, so I'll say New England doesn't get the respect they deserve. And there are so many things happening here, and I hate when I see people leave the Boston area and they go to the Valley. Or a couple years ago, there was this big exodus to Austin, which I love. I love Austin, Texas. Breakfast burritos forever. We need those here in Boston. But it's just like there's so much talent going on here, so many good people in every single field, and I don't know why we don't get the respect that we deserve. But I don't think there's any shortage of great, super talented people in every vertical imaginable.
Yeah, I think people just hate on us because Red Sox, Patriots, Celtics, and our accents. I don't know what it is, but I think that's what it boils down to.
Patriots going to win this weekend?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I know. This is the one. I'm not a Patriots fan. I'm a lifelong New Englander, and I'm a Dolphins fan.
Oh, there's so many Dolphins fans around here. Why is that?
The only thing I can think of is it seems to be like I don't know. I grew up watching Marino, and my parents aren't Dolphins fans, but yeah. So yeah, this weekend I think the Pats have part of me wants to root for the upset, but I don't think they have I think Pats will roll all over Houston.
Nice. What's one thing, if you could go back in time, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, one thing you would take back, redo again, if you had to do it all over?
Wow. That's a good one. Wow, that's a good one because I try not to live regret. I think what I would do, part of being a humble New England guy is I suck at promoting myself. I suck at it. I really, 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 really do. And I wish I had this conversation with Ann Hanley actually just yesterday in Vegas. We were saying I wish we had pushed and pimped the book harder and had the balls to come out and say, this is the book you need. And even today, it's like, I see some of these other content books and I'm like, not all of them. I'm not gonna, but I'm like, they're crap. They're written by someone who's had a year of experience as opposed to 10 years of doing this. And I wish I had pushed the book harder back then to say, listen, this is the one you need, and had the confidence to. And I stand behind it. Saying it to you now is freaking me out, but I wish if I would go back and do that, I would change the marketing of the way we did the book and just push it even harder to say, you need to read this book. You can't argue with me. This is the book you need to read. I wish I had done that more.
Interesting. Very interesting. Let's talk about WordPress real quick as WordPress as a whole. What do you think from an outsider, from the marketer / business guy, what's one thing you think WordPress should change for better adoption, ease of use? Should it be moving in a different direction for the normal person to use?
I think they should. One of the things it's always baffled me is that there's all these plugins that I bet you if I asked 10 WordPress developers or designers or bloggers or, what are the 10 plugins you can't live without, right? I guarantee you there'd be tons of overlap, right? Why WordPress isn't like saying, well, look, everybody's using this. Why don't either buy it or put it into the system? I don't see, like these last few WordPress updates, I haven't seen any drastic, like, wow, and every time that I do an install and I have to grab this list of plugins that I know I need, I don't understand why WordPress hasn't. I mean, I understand, but that one is what I'd love. Like I think about WP Touch is one, like to make it mobile friendly. Why isn't that in WordPress? Why isn't it mobile friendly like that? Why? Because that stuff. There should not be a website on the planet that is not mobile optimized these days. That should be in there. Things like that, I would love to see WordPress do more of. And I know they're talking about it. I mean, they were at NMX. They had one of the front booths when you walk in. So, and I think they're going in that direction. But that's if WordPress, if you're watching like you should be watching this show, I would love to see them just take these things that everybody's plugging in and I know they don't want to kill off their plugin business. I understand they don't. It's a probably symbiotic relationship, but out of the box, it should be, it should come with some of these features.
Yeah, I totally agree. The 3.5 just came out, and what they did was they made the whole media section much more smoother, because that was always a pain point. One thing they did do, and that they're introducing for the WordPress.org/extend, where you go to find plugins.
Yeah.
They're introducing now like an Amazon-like rating and comment system.
Oh, cool.
So you just have more depth to, do I really want to use this plugin? And they have a plugin favorite list that you can build now.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can go and check off those dozen or so plugins and then bring them to another install.
That's awesome, right?
Yeah. Yep.
The one thing I want in their media player, because I love the new media uploader and library. What I really wish they would do, because every post I firmly believe, I just did a whole presentation on this. Every blog post should have an image, and I wish as I'm I'm writing, I'm like, let me just drag this image right there into the writing field and pop up the media library. I'm like, it's so close. I'm like, that's what I want. And I know it's coming. I'm sure it's coming, but yeah, it's continually getting better.
That's awesome. That's great. So let's move to the next segment. It's called What's in Your Toolbox, and this is what piece of software, obviously besides WordPress, what piece of software, hardware, or otherwise do you need to run your daily business routine? Something like an Evernote, an iPad, Google Docs. What do you use
all of
day
those?
in?
All of those. Day in day. I mean, my iPad I can't live without, honestly, because it is something. I'll go on trips and I'll leave my laptop at home. I will bring my iPad with a little Logitech keyboard, and I can do all my business. On the software side, as an author, Evernote and Scrivener are my must-do app, because Evernote's my brain. Mm-hmm. It's everything goes into Evernote, and Scrivener is a writer's tool. It's especially picture for fiction, it's really good, because anybody who's ever done the index card thing for an idea, you write out all the index cards. Scrivener does that virtually, and then it magically makes all the chapters, and it spits out as an ebook format. It spits out manuscripts. If you're writing fiction, which I don't do yet, you can say, show me all the things with this character, and it goes right to those scenes, and it's what I wrote the book in. And I so wish I knew about Scrivener when I was writing content rules, because it would have made Ann and I working together even easier.
Yep.
And the other one is Dropbox. I can't live without Dropbox. Is, I remember, it's funny because I had to introduce Ann, my co-author, to Dropbox. She'd never heard of it when we were writing it. I'm like, that's how we're gonna write this, honey. We're gonna do this. So those are. It's funny. I'm looking around my desk to see if there's anything else, but that's. And then my notebook. I'm old school, and by notebook I mean my field notes paper notebook is what I cannot live. I never leave the house without it. It's funny because as I'm saying that, I was like, where is my notebook? But I realized because I got in this, it's in my backpack still from Vegas because I haven't been. So I'm old school that way. I write it down. I use field notes, which are these little notebooks, and I write down ideas. As I was seeing sessions, I was writing down ideas for blog posts. I'm like, oh, that'd be a great subject. People I need to follow up with. While I have notes, on my iPhone, it's not the same as just scribbling it down. So I'm kind of old school in that way. While I'm a total geek and a techie, yep. I can't live without my notebook.
I agree with you 100%. That's an awesome roundup. Let's move to the lightning round, where I ask you a series of questions and answers, and you answer them in 10 seconds or less.
All right.
Funny you said this before, but what's the one plugin you cannot live without?
Discuss.
I
changed it on you for comments.
A favorite WordPress or business book besides your own?
Made to Stick.
Yep. A quote you live or run your business by?
Normal is boring.
That's good. That's a good one. The best business or career advice you've ever received?
To follow my own path, to take the road less traveled, and if it was something I wanted to do and I knew I wanted to do it, don't listen to anybody to get in your way. To go keep pushing forward and make it happen.
The longest a client project or maybe personal project in your case has taken?
The longest project I can remember was something called Virtual Thirst for Coca-Cola, and it was a year-long project. So from sign the contract to launch.
Nice. If you had to switch to another content management system, what would it be and why?
I honestly don't know any other. I haven't looked at another one in so long. I don't even know what. I don't know. Blogger. I'd go with Blogger because it's owned by Google, so it's probably not going away anytime soon. I guess. Nice. I don't know.
Who should I interview next?
Who should you should have you ever interviewed Mitch Cantor?
I have not.
Mitch is my one of my go-to WordPress developers.
Oh, sweet.
And he just did Digital Dads. He's done a bunch of sites for me. So he for your audience, Mitch Cantor instantly comes to mind, or Josh Fisher, who is an amazing designer and graphic guy. He doesn't do WordPress necessarily, but he's a really creative guy, and I've never seen a web interview with him ever. Awesome. So maybe he won't do one, but I love his. He did my logos. He's a great guy.
Doesn't want to reveal his secrets.
Yeah, maybe.
What's the one question I didn't ask you that I should have?
Where to buy my book?
That is. I love it. I love it. I love it. Where do people buy your book?
You can go to, it's available everywhere books are sold, but you can go to amazingthingswillhappen.com and it will go there. But go to your independent bookstore, buy it there, help small businesses.
That's awesome. CC, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for doing the show. Thanks for the insights and the feedback. Everyone, check out CC's work, his book, his podcast, his blog, his photos, the journey that he's taken. It's been an awesome ride. Do go to mattreport.com/subscribe to stay tuned and in touch when I release another podcast. Thanks, guys.